Finland, a country of 5.6 million people, can put 280,000 trained troops in the field in 72 hours, backed by 900,000 reserves. Germany, with 84 million people and the largest defense budget in Europe, cannot muster a single ready division. What makes one of Europe's smallest nations the continent's most combat-capable army and leaves its wealthiest nation adrift? The answer rewrites everything you thought you knew about military strength. Every Finnish man faces a choice at age 18. Conscription requires service of 165, 255, or 347 days. Around 70% complete the training, and each year tens of thousands join the trained reserve. Over decades, this system has produced a pool of about 900,000 reservists, more than 1 in 6 Finns. The legal backbone is the Readiness Act, revised in 2017. It gives the government the power to call up reservists and conscripts at a moment's notice, bypassing lengthy parliamentary debate. Mobilization is not just theoretical, it is practiced, planned, and built into the national routine. Wartime strength stands at 280,000, mobilizable in as little as 72 hours, according to Finnish officials and recent parliamentary statements. Readiness continues after conscription. The National Defense Training Association, known as MPK, puts 50,000 volunteers through refresher and civil defense courses each year. Surveys show that 83% of Finns are willing to defend their country, one of the highest rates in Europe. Equipment is stockpiled and ready, with 700 howitzers, 700 mortars, and 100 multiple rocket launchers dispersed across the country. The defense budget is modest by European standards, about 6.5 billion euros, or 2.4% of gross domestic product, but every euro is tied to a specific mobilization outcome. In March 2024, Finland mobilized 4,100 troops, half of them reservists, in a multinational exercise with 14 partner nations. The entire system, from legal authority to prepositioned artillery, is designed to turn a small population into a force that can be fielded almost overnight. Exercised regularly and measured constantly, the Finnish model ties each building block to mobilization performance. This is what readiness looks like when every element is practiced and woven into the fabric of society. Poland's military has undergone a transformation in less than a decade. In 2014, the armed forces counted just under 100,000 personnel. By 2024, that number more than doubled to 216,100, making Poland's army the third largest in NATO Europe. The surge is backed by a defense budget of 159 billion zloty, approximately 34 billion euros, representing over 4% of national GDP. The Territorial Defense Force, established in 2017, has expanded to nearly 40,000 volunteer soldiers. The government's current legislation sets a target of 300,000 total troops with 250,000 professionals and 50,000 territorials. The pace of procurement matches the pace of recruitment, demonstrating speed. In July 2022, Poland signed a contract for K2 Black Panther tanks from South Korea. The first batch arrived in December 2022, just 5 months after the deal. Initial deliveries are scheduled to reach 180 tanks by the end of 2025, within a broader framework for 1,000 K2s. Alongside this, orders include 672 K9 howitzers and 366 M1 Abrams tanks, with deliveries underway. This rapid buildup brings clear challenges. Training centers are stretched to capacity, and there are documented shortages of personal equipment for new recruits. Defense analysts and Polish officers warn that rapid expansion risks outpacing the military's ability to fully train and equip every soldier. The numbers are impressive, but the system now faces a tension between headline growth and the practical demands of readiness. Poland's high-velocity buildup stands as both a model of rapid mobilization and a test of how quickly quantity can be turned into combat power. France maintains a professional armed force of 204,700 active personnel, structured for global reach rather than mass homeland defense. The French military is built to project power beyond its borders, sustaining deployments of up to 30,000 troops abroad for extended operations. This capability includes combat forces, logistics, intelligence, and command elements, supporting missions from the Sahel to the Indo-Pacific. France's overseas presence is anchored by the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, the European Union's only carrier capable of launching fixed-wing jets with catapult and arrestor gear. While the French model excels at rapid intervention and high-end expeditionary warfare, it relies on a comparatively shallow reserve. The operational reserve numbers about 45,000 to 50,000, with plans to increase to 100,000 by 2030. This reserve is drawn from volunteers and former professionals rather than a large pool of conscripts. As a result, the proportion of the population with recent military training remains low compared to conscription-based systems. France's approach prioritizes readiness within a compact, professional corps. The force is combat experienced, having rotated through multiple overseas operations in recent years, but it cannot quickly expand to field hundreds of thousands for territorial defense. The model demonstrates how a European power can sustain high readiness deployments far from home, yet lacks the reserve depth to mobilize at scale on short notice. France stands as the benchmark for professional expeditionary capability in Europe, offering a different answer to what combat readiness looks like when measured by deployability rather than mass. Germany allocates more than 50 billion euros each year to defense, with an extra 100 billion euros special fund stretching from 2022 to 2027. Yet the Bundeswehr's actual strength tells a different story. Out of 185,600 active personnel, roughly 20,000 posts remain unfilled. This persistent vacancy rate leaves critical gaps in units across the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. The end of conscription in 2011 sharply reduced the annual intake of new soldiers, and with it the depth of trained reserves. Today, less than 1% of Germany's population has recent military training. Equipment readiness remains a central problem. Official reports from the Federal Ministry of Defense in 2024 put the operational rate for major systems at just 55%. For the main battle tank fleet, the numbers are stark. Germany holds 312 Leopard 2 main battle tanks, but only 212 are operational. Another 99 are in maintenance or repair, often waiting months for spare parts. The self-propelled howitzer fleet counts 121 PZH 2000 howitzers, but many are sidelined by technical issues or are cannibalized for parts. The operational shortfall constrains training, deployments, and force generation. Senior officials have not hidden their frustration. In November 2023, the Inspector of the Army described the process of assembling a fully equipped division as a nightmare. By March 2024, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Armed Forces summarized the state of the Bundeswehr as having too little of everything: ammunition, spare parts, personnel, and tanks. Despite the influx of new funding, the pace of procurement and repair has lagged behind operational needs. The result? Germany, with the largest economy in Europe, cannot field a single fully equipped division at short notice. The gap between declared ambition and actual readiness is measured not just in euros, but in empty barracks, idle vehicles, and delayed deployments. European defense planners face a numbers problem that no mobilization plan or recruitment drive can solve overnight. Factories across the continent, from northern Scandinavia to the industrial heartlands of Germany and France, produced roughly 300,000 artillery shells of 155mm caliber in all of 2024. That figure, drawn from public EU and industry estimates, represents the baseline before any of the promised expansions reach full speed. Yet on Ukraine's front lines, the daily rate of fire can reach 10,000 shells per day, enough to consume 3.65 million rounds in a year if sustained. The arithmetic is stark, and even at today's most optimistic output, Europe faces a shortfall of about 3.35 million shells annually, just to match the pace of a single high-intensity conflict. Ammunition plant managers and industry spokespeople point to bottlenecks that go far beyond machinery. Skilled labor is in short supply, environmental permits for handling explosives can take years, and key components like propellant and fuses often face months-long lead times. Defense ministries may sign contracts, but without guaranteed multi-year orders, companies hesitate to invest in permanent new production lines. The result is a production system that was designed for peacetime and now finds itself overwhelmed by wartime demand. No matter how many troops can be mobilized or how quickly new equipment is ordered, the rate at which shells leave the factory floor sets a hard ceiling on what any European army can actually sustain in combat. The ammunition gap is not just a logistical detail, It is the ultimate constraint that defines the limits of readiness for every force on the continent. Europe's defense is not measured by budgets, but by how fast and fully nations can mobilize real forces. As threats shift and alliances evolve, readiness remains a choice. It is made in peacetime and paid for in urgency. In today's world, preparedness is never theoretical. What would your country choose?